Welcome to the Senators Online Summit. My name is Felipe Carrera, and I'm the president of the Association of Senators in Europe. I hope that this is the first of more to come summits. I was doing my accounting, and we have around 54 countries present. And so we have here two possibilities. Like we said, the first people that would register would have access to the Zoom, and those are you that are here already, and the ones that will enter afterwards. And there is another audience that I'm looking to the other screen that is on my side, because there is another audience that is on YouTube Live. So in both cases, we accept questions. And actually, if you have any question on the Zoom, you can even raise your hand and say it out loud when the moderator gives you the floor, or you can put it through chat. So in the case of YouTube Live, it will have to be through chat. In the case of Zoom, there is at least privilege that you can say it out loud. So if you want to use that privilege, you are very welcome to do so. We have three panels today. This under the umbrella Leadership in Changing Times. So this first panel that we will start just in a moment is about leading in a digital environment. And we will have from South Africa, Tsepo, and from Indonesia, Ilman, and from USA, Jennifer. We will talk a little bit more about this, and then we will have a break. So you can go to the bathroom, smoke a cigarette without showing that you are smoking, whatever. And the second panel, it will be in 1 hour time, so at 3 Central European time, and it will be about dealing with climate change. And the president of the chairman of AMESA, Riyad, will be the moderator. And then we will have Anieli from Estonia, David from Singapore, and Robert from Trinidad and Tobago. Finally, after another 15 minutes break that you can use for all the activities that I said before, we will talk about intergenerational leadership in the workplace. And we will have for that as moderator Ira from ASEAN, and Peter from Bulgaria, ASEAN in Indonesia, I forgot to say this, Peter from Bulgaria, Cabo from Botswana, and Jennifer comes again here from the USA. So this is a very short, I don't want to bother much with long presentations. So we will start immediately this first panel. I was giving a little bit more time for people to enter, and because I have one lady in the panel, I will start with the ladies. So Jennifer, is up to you. So let me make you this question. So to get your view, and by the way, Jennifer is very much engaged in NGOs and charitable work, so has a kind of more social view, I think, from these kind of topics, because many times we think about the digital like something that is only business oriented, and it's when you are leading is only for business. So Jennifer, my first question for you, in a world where technology is constantly evolving, how can we design our leadership model to thrive in a digital environment?
Thank you, and that's a fantastic question, and I want to offer another point of view as well. I do work with a lot of different NGOs. I sit on a number of board of directors here in USA, helping with NGOs and nonprofits and not-for-profits Professionally, I have a degree in engineering and a certification in planning, and specialize in multimodal mobility and transportation solutions. So have truly both that social as well as that technical and business background. When we look at our leadership model and our technology, we must recognize that those with experience often comes over time. It does not reference any age reference. It is typically about you just have to go through things to have that experience. And those with experience may not always have the latest technological tools available to them. And so with any leadership team, any model, it is about surrounding yourself with individuals who have all different capabilities, recognizing what your strengths are, your weaknesses are, and filling in the gaps within that. That's often recognizing that within our teams, we must rely on those who are learning, often in university and colleges, but learning the latest technology, staying abreast of that and bringing them onto our teams. While they may not have the experience as yet for the business side or the social leadership side within that model, that's how we can work to mentor individuals while ensuring that our entire team is filled with experts in different fields. So it really does come back to one of those original concepts that even through the JCs and the Junior Chamber Movement, JCI, that we learned, it's about welcoming all and ensuring that we have filled all of the gaps within our team to incorporate each technology and use it to serve and mentor individuals coming up through the experience levels.
Thank you very much, Jennifer, for that insight. And and I like the what you said about it is about surrounding with people that are, because when we think about leadership, many times we think about this kind of isolated leader. So one thing that, by the way, because I'm dealing with all the technology thing at the same time, I forgot to say that this is an organization, this summit is organized between the Association of Senators of Africa and the Middle East, Association of Senators of the Americas, Association of Senators of Southeast Asia, and the Association of Senators of Europe. So that's why I said that it is the first of several other summits that will follow for sure, because we have this space that we can exchange. So now we had the vision from Jennifer from the USA, and now let's go all the way to Africa. So Seppo, one thing that I would like to hear from you is, okay, a lot of people talk about this digital revolution, but what is this digital revolution? How you see it? I know that you are a software guy, so this is the perfect question for you. And what is the impact that that is having in our lives and as a society as a whole? How you see it, Seppo?
Thank you very much, Felipe, and thanks to all the panelists and all the senators that are with us today. Let me start by indicating that over time, we've gone through various revolutions, in particular on how industry operates. We started with the first revolution, which was about steam engineering. We got into the second revolution, which was about assembly lines, where in factories, people were lined up to put together products with mass production in mind. And the third revolution, the internet came through, computers came through, and so forth. Now, the fourth industrial revolution is, or the so-called digital revolution, is where we have a lot more technologies fusing the physical world together with the digital world. So technology becomes part of our daily lives, beyond just using it as and when you want to. In this digital revolution, or the age that we are in, it is not always on demand that you will use technology. Sometimes when you don't demand it, technology is there, it will also be part of your life. So it's divided into three major areas. The first one is where we are digitizing processes, we are digitizing our engagement with business, with society. We use devices in order to communicate with each other and not more. The other component is, and by the way, there's also integration of various technologies that are there. So your mobile phone can integrate with the Internet of Things devices, sensors, and so forth. Then the second area where these technologies exist is in business model, how we do business. You don't need to be in Jakarta, for instance, to do business there. You can do it irrespective of where you are in the world, and services can be provided irrespective of where you are in the world. We talk about 3D printing, we talk about authentication services that can verify people using big data and so forth. The third area is where you have digitization of products and services using smart sensors, big data, multiverse, and so many other technologies. So there's a myriad of disruptive technologies that are changing how we are living today. And that becomes part of the digital era that we are in. It affects society insofar as how we do things. Self-driving cars, you don't need to drive yourself. Probably it will lead to less accidents, I hope. Digital currencies that are there, making transacting between businesses and people a lot more easier. Internet of Things, they're able to detect patterns that we probably would not have using the old models of technologies or just using our own eyes. And today, there's this big thing about AI, ChatGPT. You structure a question, it can be responded to within few seconds, giving you a detailed response. Or even sometimes, even software developers, you can easily do a basic mobile application just by giving instructions to artificial intelligence, which mimics how we do things as people. And over time, it learns and it becomes a lot more autonomous to an extent that it can be able to construct whether responses or give instructions to other pieces of technology to do things that you would have physically done yourself. So the impact there is that our physical is also becoming digital at the same time.
So basically, it is being embedded in our life. This is something that is happening now. That technology will be more and more present and less noticed. so
yeah.
Okay, so let's go for Indonesia. So Hilman. We know that we are having now some rough economic waters, and the digital economy is approaching around $200 billion. What are the factors that are driving its growth, and how is shaping this our world?
Okay, I think it's great to know that digital economy is after COVID unblocking us, then the digital economy now moving forward and rapidly grow, because that time the physical distancing make people use technology, to using handphone, laptop, everything, doing the digital transaction, even trade, finance, and logistics, and everything. So this encourage people starting to do a digital transaction. And the other thing, there are research in ASEAN, multi-year research program launched by Google and Temasek and Bain Corporation. They starting on 2016 up to last year, 2020. they describe how fast, that digital transaction is very, very grow. Like this, in 2016, the ASEAN predict that to achieve 200 billion economy will be predict on the 2025. But last year, they almost achieved 200 billion, meaning 3 years earlier, meaning how the growth of internet technology and digital economy is influence people's life for doing anything, not only for the business, but also for the learning, and also surveying any kind of the activity. That's the you have to realize there's research is what you call it. That's give us the figure. There's tremendous growth, in ASEAN. So in ASEAN, mostly also they are archipelago. So traveling, it's very important for each nation, by seeing everything. With the technology, internet, digital economies help them to keep active. So that is make the ASEAN people is moving forward. I think yes, Felipe.
So Ilman, you are an expert in business integration, and one of the things that that I find interesting is that, first, you're talking about your area. Southeast Asia is, like you were saying, is a lot of islands dispersed, but it's interesting that before geography was a complicated thing, and now it's not so much, because these kind of technologies have flattened the world. So nowadays it's much easier to integrate and to work from any place in the world. So actually there are, coming from Indonesia, where you are, there are a lot of good examples of remote work and remote workers that go out there. There is a huge community. I've seen a lot in Bali of remote workers. It's one of the hot locations for remote work. And with that in mind, also we need to have different kinds of leadership. So I will go for Jennifer. And what do you think are the key strategies for successfully integrating technology into our leadership models, and even thinking about this kind of situations where we have dispersion of the workforce?
Absolutely. And we're seeing it today. We're seeing it now as a truly, as many will say, in a post-COVID world of here in the USA. What does that look like for our workforce? And what does that look like in the different types of businesses that we have? You have some, such as mine, in the engineering realm, where it has been very traditional to go into an office for the design side. You're going into the office, you're working together, you're mentoring young people, you're standing over a large table, looking over plans, reviewing all of these details. And truly overnight, as this entire world has seen, things had to change, and it really pushed technology into our industry and into, across every industry much faster than it would have otherwise. Something as simple as Microsoft Teams, which is the platform that I use professionally. We had a 6-month, 9-month rollout for it. We rolled it out in a week, and everybody became accustomed to it very quickly. And we found that we could do different reviews and have different conversations and still sit around the virtual table and look over plans. And it's having that capability, and truly from the leadership model side, as we're integrating technologies, it's having leaders that are flexible. It's ensuring that within that leadership model that we are, again, accepting of the possibilities. it's allowing, and what technology has done as we've seen it incorporated more and more through virtual working, through remote working from home, it has changed. And again, culturally in the USA, where it's a lot less vacation time typically and a lot less leave time and a lot more work oriented often, it's changed what that balance is. And it's having that leadership model who recognizes that an individual can take off for a month and still be in touch through technology. And so how we incorporate that is understanding what job do we need to do in the end and what tools will help us get there. You heard it said earlier that technology is now integrated so well into our lives, we often take it for granted. We take for granted how easy things are to do. And that's even, and I'll use my background as an example, when we go out and look at roadways and transportation networks and transportation systems, it used to be a lot of measuring and surveying, and we're now sending out, LiDAR, flying LiDAR and drones to pick up information and be able to process it. And again, process it from anywhere. So it's being able to be, as I said, be flexible as a leader. And as we're working to integrate these technologies and making sure that our workforces are trained, that we're using the technologies that make the most sense, and that we're allowing this integration to happen, that we're staying open, that there are new systems and new processes that are better and more time saving than in the past. Oftentimes for change to happen without having a global pandemic or another major catastrophe happen, which really presses on and really identifies who our anti-fragile leaders are within our organization, who are really blossoming through and adapting well. But oftentimes it takes, we want to see that return on investment. It's a popular term within our businesses and our professional communities and our cost benefit analysis, and recognizing that technology can offer that type of cost benefit and return on investment much more so than just doing something the old-fashioned way, as we would say. But really, it really comes back to what is that flexibility and making sure that our leadership model is set up to be flexible, to recognize that the end product is where we want to be. And there are 1,000 ways to get from point A to point B. And we need to allow that flexibility to recognize it doesn't have to be the way we've always done business, that we can do it from any place in the world. As was noted, the world has become a very, very flat place from how we can connect to each other. And we can do it in a number of different ways. And a true leader who is flexible and understands their leadership model to be that of incorporating flexibility and change and innovation will be able to incorporate all of this together.
So the key word is flexibility. And also one thing that you were saying, I would add one part, that is reaching talent where there is a crisis of talent. Now even big organizations in the area of human resources, they don't talk about human resources, they talk about talent, because human resources is, let's say, more like, okay, payrolls and things like this, and who gets the vacation when. And now you have to manage talent, and manage talent is also to reach talent where you can find it. And you can, it's not a question of where is the talent in my cities, where is the talent in my world. So let's go to South Africa. Chepo. So we were talking about leadership and how we can use leadership models, but let's drill in and think as a leader. Okay, think about, we are living in this digital environment. As a leader, what are the essential skills and qualities that are needed to thrive in this fast-paced digital environment? So I know that you are more into the IT area, but is everything about IT? You need to be an IT wizard, or there is more to it?
Not necessarily, Felipe. You don't have to, have the technical competencies of IT people. You can always surround yourself with teams and people who are aware of or who have the hard skills of technology. But it is important and by the way, bear in mind, there's this statement made by the World Economic Forum that you either disrupt or you get disrupted. So as a leader, you must keep up with the technologies. Wherever it is mentioned, whatever articles that are out there, you need to take time to read about the digital technologies that are there, the trends that are coming up, and to an extent become a student of all things digital. That helps you to have the adequate awareness so that as you lead teams, you can shape their digital culture as well as digital experiences. The other thing that is important, our major difference between technology and people is that we still have our creative capacity, we still have our emotional intelligence, and to an extent, we are still artistic, and technology might catch up, I am not sure, but those soft skills are still essential today. So it is something that you can also still continue learning, because ultimately technology is there to contribute to society, to contribute to people. So people will always be at the center of the revolutions that are happening. You have to think beyond reality. You would know that many years ago there was this sci-fi film called Star Trek, or a series. Some of these things that we used to see there are reality today. So you have to think beyond the now, think also about the future so that you can become an effective leader, not of now, but also of the future. And as I said, it is important to keep up with the competencies wherever there are courses that gives concepts and understanding of the different types of technologies and how those technologies are disrupting industries and life. Learn about that, be curious, use the technologies, and with all the support that is out there, integrate them into your business life, into your own personal life, but not forgetting that ultimately people are at the core. We know that in this, even after COVID, mental health became an issue. And as people are increasingly using technology as well, it also affects their well-being, with replacement of people by artificial intelligence and other forms of technology. People are losing jobs to an extent. So if you are a leader who thinks about the future, you also can think about how do we model work of the future so that people can still have jobs, they can still live well, they can still integrate with technology, while they are well off, so to speak. So become a student of all things digital. That is the bottom line.
I like very much that idea of becoming a student of digital, because this is something that, for instance, in the Senate, I have been encouraging that we need to network, we need to be connected, because we need to evolve the whole time. So before you would, let's say, think about, especially in Europe, you would think that around 65, you don't need to learn anything else. You need to basically relax. But there are two factors. One is that the careers are longer, and the other one is mental health. And you talked about also about mental health. It is very important that you know how to use the technology and let's say exercise the brain with that, so you don't get behind. So I also found very interesting that you being an IT guy, okay, so no, you put people in the spot that it is important to really gain skills, but also to gain people's skills. So and integrate technology also in the personal life. There is a thing that I talk a lot with my students, is that one way of understanding technology is also to integrate it in day-to-day life, and to do some test driving of it. So how we can improve our day-to-day life. So things that are very simple, like using an agenda, okay, to escape the hassle. By the way, we are open to questions on Zoom and to the people in YouTube Live. I see there is, by the way, we have some people saying hello from Belgium, from Aruba, from the States, Togo, Germany, Peru, Colombia, where Thailand, Malaysia, so Philippines, several from Philippines, and I'm from Portugal, by the way. So I also said hello in the YouTube Live. So if you want to say hello, say hello. If you want to put questions, because this would make it even more direct to what you need from this panel. So now let's go back to Indonesia. So
Yes.
let's talk about key consumers. Normally we think about this kind of technology, the digital. So this is very much millennial, Generation Z. But in your view, who are the key consumers driving the digital economy today, in today's fast digital landscape? So who are they?
Refer to that research, the main consumer, the main player, are young generation. You know, that's young generation in the city, urban people, and moving forward to the suburban in area, in everywhere. So, you know, the way they put the language in the result, also they using young people language, you know, unusual. They using the people said they talking about techie language or something like that. So some the old generation sometimes don't understand what does it mean, but among the young generation, they already understand what they mean. So meaning the main player are young people, and then the other sector are finance, trading, and logistic and supply chains. You know, they are working based. They are using digital economy foundation. So they make people not rigid in everything, because many killer app the public can use and hide. So they talk each other with the same language. So that is influence. Like in Singapore, they describe 60,000 job creation during the after the COVID. They using at home, work from home. That's only Singapore. Can you imagine in Philippines, Malaysia, Indonesia? They are working at home. They are trading. They not manage the logic or warehouse, but just trading with the sample. No, the active people are still young generation. So this very important. Why our communities like Student Chamber International doing encourage people doing the digital training, you know, like a seminar training and transacting everything with the digital foundation. It make people more easier to connect each other. They with the borderless country, with the physical, they have a lack of the distance. Yeah? But in the digital economy, like now, Philippines, Portugal, now we are in Bandung. I feel so close in everyone. So this is new world, but we have to what to call it, to program to program what we can use it for good for everyone, you know. So now also in the lecture, most in the campus they are doing virtual, yeah, virtual, and also now in the government services, the operator of the services by application, most often are young people. Yeah, so I encourage GCI is invite many people to do program with digital activity, not only for business, maybe for learning too. That's Felipe, Rame.
Okay. One thing that I would highlight is that, of course, younger generations, like you said, are much open to this kind of tech language.
Yeah.
And also there is a field for what is now called reverse mentoring. So basically younger helping older generations to get into technology and being mentored by these older generations in order to have the people skills that they are lacking. And especially when we went through the pandemic, a lot of these younger generations are losing a bit of this kind of people skills. So this is something that I see relevant. We are in the last 7 minutes. Time has passed very fast because you brought so much value to this panel. And I want to give, let's say, a last round question for, the question is the same for the three of you. And the question is like this: think about, you are a leader at this point, you are leading a team, wherever you are, you want to develop yourself. Which skill you should learn? Which, it can be even a program, it can be something that it will help you a lot. Let's say something that you have seen that when you master that, it helps working in this digital world. So like I was saying, it can be a skill, can be a program, can be a web page, whatever. Give us, at this round, I want one pearl from each one of you, and you share with this audience one thing that will help you, not in, let's say, in a few months or something like that, something that will help you immediately. So we will go through the same order. So Jennifer, you know that you are next.
Thank you. And thanks for allowing me to go first on this one. For that one item, it really comes back to several things that have already been said today, and I'd encompass that into not necessarily learning a specific software, going to a specific web page, trying to chase technology. We will always be chasing it if we have not stayed at the forefront of it. I go back to one of the first things I said. It's surrounding ourselves with other people. It's using the word "and" as we think through things. But that one item that would be the most significant, it's making sure that we are approaching with an open mind and open ears, that bringing back that concept of flexibility. But that as a leader, we recognize we don't have all of the answers. We have the ability to inspire others to move towards a vision. Having that open mind and that open ears to listen and truly embrace the intelligence, the technology others have, the expertise of others, but to do that in order to make sure we recognize that together we can move forward, and alone we can only go so far.
Basically, you are going towards something that in other forums I have been talking, is that we need to work more and more as a collective brain.
Correct.
Our value is as much as the value of the knowledge of our network. So this is something that we need to understand, and that JCI and the senators are huge network of knowledge that we need to use as much as possible. So now turn to South Africa. Chepo, what is your specific something really specific that we can do today, tomorrow?
Yeah, before indicating one broad topic that we can all immediately learn about, I agree with you as well as Jennifer that we need each other. So there must be a lot more equality, and that is what technology brings to us. So as leaders in this uncharted and uncertain world, we need to learn, specifically from my own view, about this topic called digital transformation, because it can lead you to many aspects of what technology is doing and how can you incorporate it in the spaces that you are leading. So digital transformation is a topic that I would encourage us to spend time in, so that we can understand the hard technology, the models, processes, and anything else that encompasses technology that's affecting us today. If we get more knowledge and this understanding of these changes, we will be better leaders as we go on into this uncharted and uncertain world that we are in.
Thank you, Seppo. We have a comment from I hope I'm saying this correctly. The name, I'm always bad in saying foreign names. I'm sorry for that. Lecter Wirst, I think from Germany. He's saying personal and individual approach to each member of the team is much more important than before. So the question of the talent that we were talking before, that it's connecting directly with the right person and put it in the right place. Use your eyes, eyes to watch, your ears to listen, and your mouth for open questions. Find out what is each one's purpose. And it's he's saying, it's not like I was saying, it's Christoph. So he wants to be treated by Christoph. So Christoph, thank you very much for your comment that was made on YouTube Live. And last, very fast, Hillman, what is your contribution to what should we learn very fast?
Thank you. What I'm really concerned is not technology itself, but the technology is a tool for our community. You know, what we should develop and embrace is a community itself. So, what community want to do? You know, to develop individual development, to sharing knowledge, doing transaction, everything. So the technology is a part of the activity of the community. So let's say in each region, they have a community center of JCs or Renat, and then they're working an agenda on a program based on the digital tools. So I agree with our senator from Africa, South Africa. This is very important, is a digital transformation. So our responsibility is narrow the gap between undigital age and the digital era. So we have to create something on the middle there. So the community center is very important to understand the technology as a tool, not a goal. You know, so the goal itself, the community, to develop of the knowledge, the develop of the economy, the development, networking. This from me, Felipe.
So again, it should be something that helps the community as a whole, and we should, and that's why organizations like JCI, we can really create value as a community. Because I put the challenge, give me one thing, one simple thing, I will give you mine. It will be very fast. One thing that I learned in JCI, I've never heard about it before JCI, and in JCI people love to use it, is mind mapping. Mind mapping is very good when you try to make some complex reality in a very simple way. And digital is a complex reality. I use it a lot, for instance, for brainstorming and everything. Even when we were working on how this summit will be, we worked all the time. This team across the world, we worked with a mind mapping, and that always gave us an idea of the whole picture. So we went 3 minutes overboard, but we also started 3 minutes afterwards. So it is exactly balanced. So I want to thank you, Jennifer, Chepo, and Hillman, for your contributions, for being courageous enough to be in the first panel of this first Senators Online Summit organized by Association of Senators of Africa and the Middle East, Association of Senators of the Americas, Association of Senators of Southeast Asia, and Association of Senators of Europe. So this is a very interesting event, and the thing is that there is this background that was made by the chairman of AMESA from Africa and the Middle East. And one of the things that I said is that this is actually a very nice background, because we here have visions from the world. In this panel, we had the Americas, we had Europe, we had Africa, we had Asia. And this is something that we need to work more in getting this knowledge. In this digital world, like we were talking before, your value is equal to the value of the knowledge of your network. So our network is worldwide. So let's have more of these kind of discussions. So we will have now a break, but during the break, I want to do some small activities. So if you want to stay, please stay on. We will restart it in 10 minutes with Ria that is already nodding his head, so he's ready to go. Ria, we have been discovering that we are a kind of brothers that were separated at birth, because we work very well together. So when he says something, I say the compliment, and it goes like this. It's like we are always doing a very nice work together. So, for instance, we had a summit in Istanbul between senators from Africa, the Middle East, and Europe, and it was a very interesting event. And we will have another one like that next year. We are already planning. So, so there is somebody.
Felipe,
Yes, Riyad,
Felipe,
tell me.
may I suggest that you spotlight yourself and the three other speakers, and I'll take a picture, please.
Ah, okay. So you will be the photographer this time.
Yep.
So if you want to be in the in the photo, please show your lovely face. And by the way, try to smile. So people will think, oh yeah, people were happy at the panel. Okay. So I'm doing my best smile.
All right, Don.
Yeah.
Can you Felipe, can you do it with only you and the three speakers? You spotlight only the four of you.
Okay. Let me do that. And let's and here we are.
Oh,
The moderator and the three speakers: Portugal,
Okay. Now
USA, and Indonesia, and South Africa, all together in one Zoom call.
you're good. You're good.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You see, that's why I like to work with Riyad. So let's take now it's taking this out. So one of the things that we can talk during this this break, the people that want to do the break, the famous smoking break or something like that, can go. But if you have any questions, the three panelists are still here, so we can help. If there is some microphone on that is not talking with us, it's talking to somebody else. Okay, I managed to silence it. So we have some congratulations on YouTube about these sessions. There is Ariel John says, I love mind mapping. What a great tool. Actually, I'm quite a fan. I'm not selling mind mapping, so it's not like I will put my my affiliated link there, so don't worry. If you want, I can even give you a free tool. It's very easy, free mind, if you want to test it. But before, just check some videos in YouTube about it. You will see. If you are not using, you should. I think that this mind mapping should be even taught in schools when the kids start in school in order to how to study and everything. It is an amazing tool. Anybody else has a tool that that you suggest from the audience? We got our panelists and myself suggestions. So if you have, we still have some 6 minutes, and there are people that might be now having going to the bathroom or having the cigarette or whatever. So any other suggestion? Thank you, Jean Tan, for your nice message, and also from Fode Diopo from Senegal. So this basically in this small screen we have the world represented. So I see a lot of friends also in this screen. So I see. I hope I will not miss anybody from Jean, from David, Jacques, Tom, René, Petar, that will be speaking in some moments also. So there is a lot of people here. So any tool that you suggest, you can open the microphone. This is now it's like karaoke. You can do it at any moment. So you can. So okay, well, we have a message from Morocco. The president of JCI Morocco, national president of JCI Morocco. So is here. And Ira, that will be on the third panel. We will be a moderator, and so she's also putting here a message we have from YouTube Live. And I'm really bad in saying names. I will say Dishart Panikul. He's saying great start for JCI Senator Global Meeting, JCI ASEAN Thailand. Very people seem that like this panel. So Riyadh, you have now to do it even better. So Reynold is saying that he's using MindView in a YouTube Live. He's saying that he's using MindView. So I don't know this one. I have one that is paid, but I don't have the affiliated code, so don't worry, I'm not selling. I use MindOmo, mind like mind, and then OMO. I like it very much because it's cloud-based, so it works very well on that. So, any other suggestions of tools? Or other suggestions about what it was taught on this panel that you want to share? Okay, there was here a little bit of sound. So it is, by the way, we had more than 200 registrations for this event. So there is a lot of people that is following through YouTube. And this also will be available afterwards. But I think that it's much better always to have live. It's like music concerts. One thing is to see it recorded, and the other thing is to see it live and being able to interact and make questions. So if you want, we are here for your questions. And Riyadh, you are almost on starting, because according to my clock, it is 2 minutes for your panel. So
Yes, it's 2 minutes for my panel. So, but then I'm looking for. Okay, Annelien is coming in.
it's
Yeah,
just
great.
entering. It's just entering at
Yes.
this point.
Just entering at this time, yes, because I just sent a
Okay.
message actually.
You have all your panelists present?
So we have Senator Robert. I saw him coming in.
Yes, I see them. They are
Yes.
here together.
Yep.
So I will do all the. Don't worry about putting people at some point. I will do that for you, Riyadh.
Sure, thanks.
I will be your director, movie director.
Thank you so much.
So you only have to be worried about the questions and the answers. So we are like 30 seconds to go. This is one of the things of this new digital world, is that nowadays things tend to start on time because there is no excuse, there is no traffic excuse. So it is something that nowadays it happens that you can be anywhere and you can participate.
Now, because now you're going to say this connection problem. This is the new one. The new one is you're mute. So these are the common terms.
Oh, yes, yes. I like to say that people look like Nemo in an aquarium. So I start like swimming a little bit and everything. So like the fish. So we are getting greetings from Portugal, also Ronald Govertz, a senator from Portugal, and also from another from Morocco, Sarah. I know Sarah.
Sarah,
so
yeah.
So my dear brother that we separated at birth. So it is 2 o'clock in my clock, but 3 o'clock CET. So it is your turn, and I will shut up finally. You will thank me for that.
Thank you, my good friend. Actually, we all have our panelists present, so we are going to start. So our discussion today, right now, is going to be about climate change. So it's about adapting with climate change. So we are going to look at different views and perspective of climate change in different areas in Africa, in Europe, in Americas and the Caribbean, and also Southeast Asia. So I'm very excited to go on this topic because myself I'm a climate activist. I'm a climate activist for the former Vice President Al Gore. I'm in his NGO Climate Reality for now some years. I had the opportunity to be trained by himself in 2016 in Houston, in Texas. And I'm also the zero waste ambassador for the Let's Do It Foundation. I've taken a training like two years ago on circular economy, waste management, and all of those. And I have been acting a lot in my country and in different parts of Africa, also implementing projects and campaigns. So, and we have also a fantastic panel with us, which I'm going to present as we go. So, if we have just to look into a little definition of climate change, so if we go to the definition of the United Nations, it says that climate change refers to the long-term shifts in temperatures and weather patterns. Temperatures, actually around the world keeps increasing every year, at times reaching peaks which are no longer adaptable to a human being. According to the NASA, 3 years ago, in a desert in Iran, the temperature reached 74 degrees centigrade at midday. So, phenomenon like powerful cyclones with gusts of wind beyond 300 kilometers an hour, Torrential rain, also known as rain bombs, giving like over 100 millimeters of rain in an hour, have become today's normal, while extreme cold temperatures are being felt in regions which normally never experience same. So today we have a panel of senators with whom we are going to have a discussion on dealing with climate change in the perspective of 4 different regions. So our first panelist is Robert Lehunt. I just hope I didn't mispronounce. Apologies for that. From Trinidad and Tobago. He has served at various positions such as board member of the Inter-American Development Bank, IDB Invest, and the Multilateral Investment Fund. He has also served as Minister of Public Utilities for Trinidad and Tobago from 2017 to 2020. This is just to mention a few. Welcome, Senator Robert. And my first question to you: how real is the climate issues to the regions and the major challenges which are being faced?
Good morning all, or good evening and good afternoon to all JCI members and the listening public. And again, I want to congratulate the organization for putting together this event. I agree with the last moderator that we do need to utilize our global outreach, and having discussions among people is one way of making this world smaller and getting our message across. As you said, when I speak as a region, when you ask me to speak, I speak on behalf of both the Latin America and the Caribbean region. And I will say that the Latin America and the Caribbean region is the second most prone region worldwide to environmental and climate disasters. According to the IMF, I think this is a particular statistic that we're not familiar with, but up to roughly 2/3 of the 511 disasters to hit small island countries since 1950 to now. So again, climate change is an issue, and these disasters are things that we have been dealing with and working with since that time. 2/3 of those happened in the Caribbean region, and it took more than 250,000 lives. Caribbean small island development states are particularly susceptible to the impact of climate change and natural disasters due to their location along the hurricane belt in narrow coastal zones and the limitation of space on the island. Caribbean nations could be greatly affected by the ongoing rise in sea levels, change in rain patterns and temperatures, and increasing intensity of natural disasters. The IMF estimates that the economic impact of hurricanes in the Caribbean could be as high as 5.7% of GDP on average. And that figure will increase to between 22 and 77% per year by 2100 in a global warming scenario of CO2 concentrations and high global temperatures. The reality is, without concrete climate actions, by 2050, more than 17 million people in Latin America and the Caribbean could be displaced to escape the effect of climate change. 17 million in the region, Latin America and the Caribbean. And we are seeing this happening even as we speak. Now, if you look at some of the coastal islands out of Panama, we are seeing communities being displaced even right now. When you live on a small island climate change is not just a theory or discussion, but it is really a real probability of eradication of your existence and your way of life. Global estimates that 93 trillion US dollars is needed to finance low emissions, resilient infrastructure, with 70% of this value to be invested in urban areas. Bringing it closer to home, when you talk about the Caribbean Country Department of the IDB, we estimate that it will cost approximately 20 billion US dollars in investment just to achieve our SDG infrastructure goal by the year 2020. So I've given you a lot of figures because, my background is in banking and finance. But, I think figures tell a story because figures don't lie. It gives you an idea of the impact of climate change to this particular region. And this will have severe and significant financial impact and a lot of displacement of a lot of people in our region. So with that, I will stop there because I know we are also going against time.
Thank you, Senator Roberts. Thank you for the figures. Actually, it is true that figures is an example, shows us the example of the negative impact of climate change. So climate change in itself has become a science, but actually we are using it to understand. Like, for instance, we have understood the impact could be a regression up to 5.7% of GDP for a certain region. And it is also what we take from this, that if we want to reverse the effects of climate change, we will need $93 trillion invested to be able to get the world in a different pathway. So having said this, my next question will go to the other side of the world now. I will go to Singapore. My question will be to Senator David. So Senator David is actually the Honorary Secretary General of ASEAN, has been in the banking industry for over 44 years, like in operations, technology, and procurement. He has retired in 2019 and continues as a consultant with the Association of Banks in Singapore. Actively involved with the SWIFT community, he is also the chairperson of the Singapore SWIFT user group. So, Senator David, please tell us, Singapore is such a small country in Southeast Asia with a very small landscape. So, what is the importance of climate change to this small nation?
Thank you, Senator Riyad. It is a great honor to be on this panel, to be able to can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, it's a pleasure to be on this panel, to be able to share what we are doing here in Singapore. Yes, if you think, we are such a small country with only 734 square meters, 5 million people. Why are we so concerned about climate change? And in fact, in terms of the global emissions, Singapore only contributes not even 1%, we contribute 0.11% of the global emission. Because climate change is an existing threat of our lives, of our times, and because of climate change, something that is of concern to Singapore are the rising sea levels and the extreme weather patterns, right? As we see around the world, millions of lives and livelihoods are in danger. So Singapore, as a low-lying state, is particularly vulnerable. Our weather is getting warmer, the rainstorms heavier, and dry spells more pronounced. And so, as we see, climate change is already happening, and its physical manifestations are already becoming increasingly evident, especially here we can see in Asia, and we already see unprecedented heat waves, floods, and agricultural degradation. So climate change is not just it's a global challenge, and Singapore is taking firm actions to do our part to build a sustainable future. So Singapore as a nation, we support the Paris Agreement. We are one of the 196 parties to the United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Change. Right, there was at the COP21, as we know, in Paris. And so under UN's 2030 Sustainable Development Agenda and Paris Agreement, we are positioning ourselves to achieve a long-term net zero emission by 2015. Right. So when we talk about climate change, we are always looking towards environment, just as I mentioned earlier about weather, about pollution. But more important, actually, climate change disrupts global supply chains and threatens access to water, to food, and energy. Even more prevalent and current as we see today in the conflicts that we are witnessing, even right now as we speak in Ukraine and Sudan. All these conflicts are generating a lot of carbon, right? And even it's known that if the Pentagon were a country, it would be the world's 55th largest emitter of carbon dioxide, right? So, whatever for its purpose, warfare is easily the most carbon intensive activity. So with all this background, Singapore has come up with what we call the Singapore Green Plan 2030 as a whole of nation movement to advance a national agenda on sustainable development. And in Singapore, we believe in public and private partnership with a common goal and vision. And two areas that we are looking at is from the environment, we are looking at coastal protection as we see rising sea levels. In fact, we already provided 2 years ago, the government announced that they have allocated 100 billion towards this initiative to protect our coast. And already 125 million research study is underway on coastal protection and even flood management. So even in our development of our, we have this new Tuas megaport. We have already increased the site to 5 meters above sea level because we expect in the years to come for the sea levels will rise. Right? So reducing carbon emission is our priority. Greening, right? Even our data centers, we are looking into having hydrogen power, clean energy, and as you know, Singapore is an aviation center. We are also promoting what we call SAF, the Sustainable Aviation Fuel. And even in the areas of transport, there is a push for electric vehicles with tax incentives and several other incentives to encourage our residents to use electric vehicles. Just like even if I'm allow me to quote the Toyota Motor Chief Executive Officer Koji Sato, who said that it's not a question about electric vehicles that they sell, but it's how much Toyota is able to reduce carbon emission. I think that is our key objective. I mean, I keep on repeating, carbon emission is our objective. And even within our country in Singapore already in decades ago, we believe in making Singapore as a city in a garden, and we are proud to say that we are one of the greenest city in the world. Even with that, we do have a current movement called the 1 million trees that we started in 1 million trees movement that we started in 2020, and we expect to achieve 1 million by 2030. But today, in 2023, actually we have already achieved 500,000 trees. So these are the initiatives that we are doing.
Thank you.
Maybe I should stop here. Yeah, because of time.
You have already answered 2 questions in one answer. So we'll just proceed with the other speaker. The other speaker is now we'll go to Europe, to Estonia. We welcome Anneli Ovril. She's actually the CEO of the Let's Do It Foundation, Let's Do It World, with its flagship project, which is the World Cleanup Day, which has engaged more than 70 million people to clean up actions to create waste-free world. So Anneli has been GCI Estonia president in 2000, national president in 2011. So I just want to say that I was also national president in 2011 for GCI Mauritius. Senator 7869. So why I mentioned that? Because mine is 2 above, 7871, and she's TOIP Estonia 2012. So she has been awarded with the prestigious national award by the Minister of Foreign Affairs in Estonia. She's in circular economy and change management, and her expert is in these 2 categories. So Anneli, please tell us, how big is the waste problem in the world?
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for the lovely introduction. Yeah, the climate change is real. Actually, I'm just reflecting also the previous talks, and I'm from Estonia, and I'm from the country where 30% of population believes that there is no climate change. And also on our 30 thinks that the climate change is actually good, because if you have been in Estonia, there are 7 months of a cold period where it's winter and it's not so lovely to be in Estonia. And people believe that climate change is a good thing because it's then we can also, enjoy warm weather. So in Estonia, we also explain all the time, so what is climate change in reality? It's not about the warm weather, it's about the storms, extreme weather conditions and so on. But how big is the waste problem? The waste problem is extremely big. There is estimations that we as human produce 2 billion tons of waste annually. If I say that the 2 billions, people are not understand how big difference is million, billion, or trillion. We even don't know how many zeros there are. Maybe million we understand. If you have $1 million, then it's really pretty good, right? But if there is already billion, then it's, oh my gosh, it's too much. Then, as you said, we are organizing World Cleanup Day every year, and pre-COVID, and there was around 20 million people who came out on the same day to pick up waste, 20 million. If we take this 20 million, then around 3.5 billion people don't have access to waste management systems, which means that where waste is going to the nature, it's going to burn, or they are using, let's say, natural waste management system, which called rivers. They just put their waste to rivers, which is to nature, right? So if we take this amount, which most probably end up in nature this year, it means that each person out of this 20 million should pick up at least 50 tons of waste. 50 tons of waste on the same day, and then we are able to clean up all the waste, which is most probably end up in the nature this year. And I'm not talking about the waste which is already there, and this is also a lot. So you can understand that one person can't pick up 50 tons of waste. So the World Cleanup Day is also can't be the solution for the waste problem. It's really big. We have to change the system. I will give you more examples. People says that okay, but I'm a good one. I'm doing good. I put my waste to the bin, and I'm the good guy. Someone else there, somewhere I don't know, in Africa, Latin America, Asia, America, just name it, should change, but not me. Then it's actually everybody's problem. There is many researches which shows that we already eat plastic. 90% of salt contain plastic, microplastic, also water, also beer. So we eat already amount of one credit card of waste every week. Doesn't matter where you live. Are you living in Estonia or in Singapore or in America or Latin America? It doesn't matter. You still eat that, which means that already the waste is in our food chain, and we are already eating it, and it already has impact on our health as well. And I'm not talking about the millions of living beings who are also killed because of waste. So our wasteful habits is the reason of climate change. And if people are thinking about the climate change, that this is something abstract, this is something which I don't know, government maybe like to tackle it, but it's not about me. I can't change the climate. Actually, we can change, and this is really time for change. and we have to rethink our concept of waste, our concept of production, our concept of consuming, and our concept of being part of the nature.
Thank you for this. It was interesting to understand the quantity of waste that we are producing on an annual level, and that truly that people really do not think that they are part of the problem. Everyone is becoming everyone's problem except one's problem. So there is a concept which is called not a concept, but a definition that we use called the Earth Overshoot Day, which is actually a date which marks actually when humanity's demand for ecological resources and services in a given year exceeds what Earth can regenerate in that year. Meaning that in 2023, the Earth Overshoot Day is going to be on the 27th of July, meaning on this 27th of July, we have already consumed everything that the Earth can give to us. So like as from the 27th of July onwards, we are on overdraft. We are already consuming what the Earth can give you for the next year. And just to take into consideration that the Earth Overshoot Day in 1971 was the 25th of December, and this has been regressing until in 2023 to become July. So we are consuming in an excessive mode, and there's no control of that. The only aim for countries, for big multinationals, is to increase the capacity, to increase the profits. And at a point of time when with the Industrial Revolution, it was only to increase capacities, but not taking into consideration what we were doing to the environment. So I'm going to have another question for Senator David, who has been speaking a little bit about the initiatives about climate change. So now I would like to ask him, what is the impact of the initiatives taken to address climate change in Singapore? Senator David, you have 3 minutes for that.
Yeah, so as we were talking about the ecological effect, actually Singapore also sees climate change or sustainability as a potential new engine for jobs and for growth. Because sustainability has to be actionable in order to become a way of life. And as a financial center, we are looking at sustainable finance as a collective. And that's where the Association of Banks issued responsible financing guidelines in 2015. And it was also recently updated to support our financial industry's ESG journey. And these guidelines define the minimum standards on responsible financing practices to be integrated into our member banks and into the financial institutions' business model. And we collaborate with our central bank as part of the Green Finance Action Plan. Guidelines which they issued what we call the Environmental Risk Management Guidelines that were issued in December 2020. So finance is a key enabler. It's very important to us of economic activity and plays a critical role in facilitating and accelerating the transition to a low carbon economy. Because at the end of the day, don't forget, manufacturers, business, they require capital, and the financial market provides capital to economic activities that can help challenge the limit temperature rises, products that are labeled as green, products that can be identified, as green products, so that they can be part of ESG investment decisions. So in Singapore, the central bank also has created what we call the Green Finance Industry Task Force. And the purpose of this task force is to establish a taxonomy for Singapore-based financial institutions to identify activities that can be considered green or transition towards green. I think this thing of transitional finance is another key factor, as we grapple with carbon neutrality. So in Singapore, under the GFIT, the Green Finance Industry Task Force, we are developing this taxonomy, which are based on international best practices to guide our financial institutions, right? So that we will be able to allow for progressive shift towards greater sustainability and support inclusive economic and social development. Right? And this task force is currently developing more granular activity level criteria, including science-based metrics and thresholds to help operationalize the classification system, right? To improve disclosures, to foster green finance solution, to enhance environmental risk management practices. So in a nutshell, you can see we are very focused also on the economic aspect of climate change.
Thank you, Senator David. It's interesting to understand, like, for a country who is actually producing only 0.11% of the global emission, and that putting all these kind of initiatives is simply amazing. You're not directly concerned, you're that concerned of the effects of climate change, but you are, Singapore, with its 5 million people by population, is one of the least polluting. Just like Africa, is one of the least polluting continent, but actually we have become a sink for all the pollution that is being emitted for especially high consuming countries. This is why there is a constant pressure of different organizations, institutions, to make sure that our rainforest, the second biggest rainforest in the world, which is found in Congo, to keep it and make sure that it's not deforested, because it acts as a second lung for this world. So since we have been talking about initiatives of the economy, so I'll go back to Senator Robert. So what are your thoughts on the availability and access to financing for climate change initiatives, and the role you see multilateral development banks and other funding agencies playing in addressing this financial gap?
Again, thank you. And this concept of financing it's a very important one. I have noted what my colleague from Singapore was saying, and I heard what you just said from Africa. As a matter of fact, when you even look at some of the countries in our region, Panama, Suriname, I mean, they are actually negative carbon emitters, one of the top 5. We have 2 or 3 in our region that are actually negative. So, this question about financing brings very quickly into focus the concept of who should really be paying, who should pay, and who needs to contribute to this whole idea of climate change. In another part, the concept of the net polluter pay concept, right, is one that I am very familiar with, the polluter pay concept. And therefore, whoever contributes that brought us into this position, there is the view that they are the ones that need to provide us with a lot of the financing to get us to reverse this situation. We know that our countries need, when you look at the situation and you talk about it, we know that our countries need investment to be more resilient. We need more climate adaptation and climate mitigation progress with a greater focus on adaptation. So there's a lot of work to be done. We have seen in our region, for example, I have seen where as a result of climate, there are prime ministers, one particular prime minister of St. Vincent gives this joke once of, here it is, we had the effect of a hurricane, a bridge got blown away. He already had serious debt. He need to borrow money to fix the particular bridge and to restore it. And by making this cost, when a country, a small country like we have in the region, have to borrow money, they are giving up that money that could have been spent on other areas of development to fix the bridge, only for another hurricane to come and wipe off the bridge. which he then need to rebuild the bridge while still paying for the first bridge that wasn't even there. So that's the kind of cycle and the type of money, right? Because these projects, the reality is that these projects cost money. It is in an estimate done again by the IDB, the infrastructure and social spending needed to meet climate change goals in the region is between 7 to 90% of GDP by 2030, or US 407 million to 1.3 trillion by 2030. That's the kind of financing that you require in our particular region. These are complex and expensive undertakings for countries that are already burdened by limited fiscal space and escalating debt to GDP rates and rising interest rates. Again, when I mentioned before that over 2/3 of the major disasters that had happened since 1950, not now, has affected the Caribbean region, you realize that these regions have been fighting and spending money on these problems for a long time. So as a result, their debt to GDP levels are very high already. And again, I make the point, like Singapore and a lot of the regions, we are not the ones that are contributing to global warming. We are not the ones, we are probably carbon zero or carbon negative countries. So there is financing that is required, and this financing needs to come from a number of places. This financing needs to come from multilateral development banks. And in the case of that, you don't only need financing, but you need a lot of technical assistance from those institutions. This financing also needs to come from institutions like green funds and so forth that we need to be able to mobilize. But I tell you, access to those funds require sometimes departments and financial resources to be able to make the particular application that sometimes a lot of our countries do not have. This financing also need to come from some of the countries, some of the private sector companies that are causing the pollution in the first place. You mentioned the war, and you mentioned one particular institution that if it was a country, what would have been their emissions? But you have all the oil companies, you have the ones that are dealing right now with the fossil fuel and extracting them and making tons of money. So we need to get financing from them. This financing also needs to come from all of the countries in the developing world that are polluting, because we are the ones, like, to use the word almost like dustbin, we are getting the impact of the climate, and we now need to spend money, limited money from our own resources to fix a problem which we did not cause. So we need to get, this problem is huge, and this problem, the funding of it, we are in the Latin America, the Caribbean region, a lot of what my colleagues mentioned in Singapore, we are doing that. We are mobilizing the local banks to finance green projects, etc. And those things are happening. But again, these things are happening at a time when our financial space and our ability to mobilize these resources is already limited, because we are using our money to fight other issues of development that needs to happen. And in addition, the size of money that is needed to build the required level of resilient infrastructure is also very, very huge. So this requires a multi-pronged approach from both the private sector, the developed countries who are the ones that are polluting and who have grown their economies as a result of the pollution, the private sector companies that are making millions of dollars as a result and polluting, and they need to have a responsibility to help these countries especially I speak a lot for the Caribbean region, but again, for the Caribbean and Latin America, in providing the financing to deal with both mitigation type projects and adaptation type projects.
Thank you, Senator. It is interesting to note this non-ending cycle when a country is facing these negative ripple effects of climate change. Myself, in Mauritius, we are getting cyclones coming in Mauritius more frequently. And in one part of my business, which is agriculture, so I've suffered a lot in the month of January. I didn't even recover from the cyclone of past year. Then this year, all my infrastructure was damaged again. So now I had to go for full re-engineering of my infrastructures. So a money that could have been invested differently, but I had to come back to this own business because it is becoming like an economic non-ending cycle. If anyone wants to ask a questions to our panelists, you please write it on the chat, and even Felipe can take questions on the YouTube channel. So I'll take another question, another panelist, and then we'll see whether we have certain questions from the floor. So my question will go to Anneli. We know that since the climate conference in Paris, there has been a follow-up on the commitments taken by the government signatories, those governments who were signatories of the agreement during the different COP, the COP conferences. But each year, the IPCC reports demonstrate that these initiatives by the governments are not taken seriously. So for me, what I would like to know from you, Anneli, is that who and how can we solve the waste problem?
Yeah, thank you for the questions. The roots of climate change are lying in linear economy, which also known as a take, make, and dispose model, which means that our model is based that we are extracting the resources, we are producing the products, and we're using and then throwing them away. But it's even child understand that it can't be sustainable. The model served us quite well in the beginning. I believe that humankind never has lived so well as we are living at the moment. We are really can enjoy the life, but it also has a price. And we are also living in a depth, as you said. Overshoot day is already 27th of July, and after that, actually, we are already borrowing from the future generation. So we are with the linear economy. The problem is that to make a transformation from linear economy to the circle ones, which imitates the nature, actually needs that everyone is involved. All the sectors are playing their parts, so that the governments develop the legislation which supports circular economy, and also allocate the budget for the circular economy to the funds, as previous panelists said, that the life goes where the money goes, which means that if you are sending somewhere money, it starts to grow. Then the corporation should design out the waste from their production and all the life cycle of their products, and also develop such kind of business models which doesn't have any waste. And also we are individuals, we can also play our part, and we have to play our part. So we can vote with really our voices on the elections, but we also can vote with our money in the shops. So if you are, and I also see that no sector can just act alone. We all have to work together. We have only one planet, so we don't have another. So we have to work here together. And we can also point the fingers and who has to pay and who are guilty. but I see that we are just wasting time here. We have to already take actions. Just imagine as individuals, every day we are throwing something away, but as in nature there is no away. There always stays something somewhere on the planet. There is no planet B, right? So there is no away. So it means that we can't just throw things away. In nature, everything goes in circle. Everything which is born and live and eventually die and become a source to another life. So we also have to implement such kind of circle in our lives as well. So now imagine that you are not producing any waste in your life, no waste. You may laugh at the moment, and you can say that it's not possible because we have a packaging and everything, all our products, and we just have to put it sometimes to the waste bin. But just let's start with the concept of zero waste, and we can also live as really like a full part of nature, of the environment, because the humankind is only race on the earth who has produced such kind of products which linger in the environment for thousands of years, like a plastic. No other species doing that. So we are only ones, and we very often call it innovation. So how can be the innovation if it actually kill the environment and ourselves as well? So what is my message is that everyone should act quickly, should do everything which is in their power to really rethink the consumption and to rethink how we are enjoying life on this planet. The enjoyment is not in the products. It's not in the amount of things what we have at home. It's in emotions and maybe enjoying the family and the social relationships. So we have to rethink a lot of things on the planet, and I believe that we can do it together. And the first thing what we have to understand that everyone has as a role, every individual on this planet. And this is not the question which governments or a big corporation should solve.
Yes, indeed. Actually, we have a tendency to think that all the problems has to be tackled by the government. But we form part of that country. The government is there towards the administration, and we have our own responsibility as citizens. So we have one question that we'll take rapidly. Let me have a look at the chat. Yes, you have one, Darian. Actually, we have two questions from Darian from South Africa. So his question is, it seems that the best way forward to solve the climate change problems is to lobby for accessing green financing, or at least facilitating access funds. Senator Robert, would you like to answer this question?
As I said, there's a saying that I used a lot when I was in active politics, and it really says, if wishes were horses, beggars will ride. Truth of the matter is, there's also a very popular calypso, Around Us, that was sung by the singer Francisco, and there's very little that you could do without money. And yes, one of the solutions, but there is no one solution. Financing needs to be provided by accessing and also making that access easier. But I also strongly believe that we need to get funding, that there's a lot of people who are presently benefiting and who have caused the problem. There are lots of people who have benefited from this climate issue where we have found ourselves And therefore, we need, for these companies, need to be pushed to pay for some of the work, the mitigation and adaptation work that is needed to help solve the problem. So I agree with the answer or the particular solution, but we need to have a multifaceted approach to this matter because of the size of the problem and the amount of financing that is needed. No one group of people could provide all that is required.
Thank you, Senator Robert. So the question two, what would be the best advice or message to JCI members around the globe to be part of the climate change solution or mitigation as a critical and urgent matter for humanity according to science? Well, I'll answer this question. So we have understood that for the past few years, there have been a reorientation of JCI with the 4 years of opportunities, talking about JCI Rise and so on and so forth. But one of the biggest challenges of this particular era of this 21st century remains climate change and the ripple effect of it. So some people, unfortunately, they do not probably feel this effect. And when they reflect about it, it takes climate change ends to become in a second position in terms of issues of this particular world. So I would suggest that it is time that we start to reflect on climate change, and that climate change also is being taken by JCI as action that could be taken globally. Yes, we are not specialists in climate change. We are not specialists also in business. When we look around in JCI, when we talk about the business opportunity in JCI, yes, we have entrepreneurs, but not every member wants to be entrepreneurs. We can be good managers, we could be good politicians, we could be good community developers. But I think that it is important that we start to make actions at a local level, national level, and eventually get all these impact at a global level. So Senator Ray said we speak very little about the effects of aviation and it relates to climate change. Yes, we couldn't in 45 minutes, and we already exceeded the time. We couldn't take all of these aspects. Myself, I'm also a commercial pilot, very passionate about aviation. But it is good. I will give you one little insight about aviation. I'm going to make a comparison to the digital waste. Actually, since just after the COVID, so there have been a down curve for the carbon emission regarding airlines, because they were considered to be one among the most polluting industry in the world. So there has been a peak down at a point, and then it has increased. And the aviation industry amounts to about 3% of the pollution, the greenhouse effect. But there's another one who has gone above this pollution, about airline pollution, is everything that we use concerning our mobile phone, our digital industry. So when every one of us is using emails, for most of us, we are using the free emails, Gmail, Yahoo, Hotmail, Outlook.com, just name it. And these are free. So we have free servers who are working 24 hours a day. It has never occurred that when you log in on your Gmail account, there are emails that are missing. Why? Because Google makes sure that not only you have your mail, but they have also backups, and they also have images of that backups that they keep. And all these are being free of charge. So these servers, they are working 24 hours. If you look at your phone, you're going to have always when you are connected, you're going to have Google Weather or AccuWeather. This requires enormous servers to work 24 hours to be able to give you certain prediction. So when you take all of these servers, when you take all of the internet infrastructure, especially when you give to the 4G and the 5Gs, it has exceeded what the airline pollution. The air pollution is about 3.2, and the other one is almost hitting 4% of pollution, actually. So you see, once we say, when we think about it, we'd say that, when we used to see gas emission from the planes, okay, and we'd say that, okay, they are the most polluting. But when we are using our phone, when we are spamming pictures on WhatsApp, We don't really think what are the pollution that we are creating. 2 billion users on WhatsApp, 2 billion users on Facebook. Just imagine the pollution which is being created. And also, the Let's Do It world has also every day they have a Let's Do It cleanup day, but they also have a digital cleanup day where they encourage people to erase all the mess that they won't use and to delete pictures, so that we are going to reduce the amount of data which is being contained on online servers and online clouds, or just name it. So, do we have any question on the YouTube channel, Felipe?
Right, if I may just a comment, and it's really great that you.
Please go ahead.
Yeah, thank you. So if I just may comment, Digital Cleanup Day, which we're organizing since 2020 from COVID time, which is a positive outcome of COVID, because we couldn't have physical cleanups. So we started with digital ones, and we understood that it's as big problem as the waste problem. But I just wanted to comment that we are not just using the internet, but 90% of the data which is in internet is actually waste, 90%, which means that we are producing millions of tons of CO2 for nothing, and no one benefits from that. And this is the problem. Problem is not that we are using internet, but the problem is that we are collecting the data which is no one is useful, and that's really a problem. And the amount of data is increasing really heavily. Yeah, thank you.
I just want to add, Senator, what Senator Dirian asked about green financing. I think the good news is that there is this network for greening the financial system called the NGFS, and this is a coalition of 125 central banks and financial regulators from 90 countries, right? And they are having a global impact on green financing. They are strengthening the resilience of the financial system for climate and environmental risks. And ultimately, they will encourage financial flows to support the transition to a net zero world. And I think that's very important. At the end of the day, in order to make the people responsible for creating all the carbon emissions, is to encourage them through the financing. If we can finance them to transition to net zero, I think that's where we can succeed.
You know, I just want to again come in on one of the points, the questions, and then I want to endorse the sentiments as what it is that we could do. Again, even listening, the information that I just was provided on data and the impact of that is something that has never really brought it to my consciousness. So we have a responsibility as GCs throughout the world. One is to provide and to inform and to teach. That was part of our mandate. You know, our creed talks about, it always ends with a powerful word that service to humanity is the best word in life. So when we talk about leadership in GCs, we know from our training that if it is going to be, it is up to me. So I agree and I endorse your position that this is one of the major items that will be impacting the world. And we need to, one, take a leadership role as in this particular area. One, to inform and also to facilitate the type of action and leadership that is required in our respective communities. Because for the change that we are talking about to happen, it requires leadership, and it requires all GCs throughout the world to actively participate in demonstrating that type of leadership, in making this happen.
Thank you, Senator Robert. You beautifully resumed the entire session that we had today. Thank you to Senator David for all your contribution, and also thank you to Senator Annalie for your inputs and giving us the real data and a good insight of what's happening. Thank you all. I'm going to leave the floor now to Felipe, which we're going to move to. We're ready to move to the next session.
Thank you very much. It was a very, very interesting panel, and we see that time is going fast. So basically, we are 2 minutes away for the next panel that we will have Ira from Indonesia that will be moderating this panel. So just to take advantage of the minute that I have, it is interesting what Riyadh was saying about ways that people are leaving a carbon footprint, and digital actually is one of those. So it connects with a previous panel, but there is also some behaviors that people don't realize that daily they are creating a lot of waste. For instance, and one that I think that is really, really bad. I grew up with a mother that was absolutely against food waste. And nowadays we see a lot of food waste. And when we see this kind of deliverings and everything, it is creating more and more food waste. So sometimes we see people that are quite okay to go to demonstrations about climate change and everything. And at the same time are the ones that are wasting food, that they are fans of fast fashion. That is another big waste. So it is something that we need to understand. And sometimes even some sort of behaviors that we think, no, it's much more, let's say, climate friendly. They are not. So everything has to be transported. Everything has to be coming to us. And this always creates a footprint. So we need to look into realities in these kind of cases. And for instance, I'm not very keen on the electrical transportation, because it seems that we only look to one part of the waste that is made. So now it's the point that I will pass the floor to Ira. Ira, is your turn. And thank you very much. Let's go for Ira.
Hello, everyone. My name is Jessia Senator Ira Kusumawardani from ASEAN Indonesia. I come from Jakarta and joined JCI in 1995 and 1998 as the National President of Indonesia Joint Chamber. And we are very busy this month because we are going to host the Asia Pacific Jakarta 10 to 13 May of 2023. So wish us luck. So I'm the moderator of today's topic on intergenerational leadership in the workplace. This is an interesting topic because in any organization or corporation, we are filled with people, many age generation. So let me introduce our three panelists. That is Jessia Senator Petar Diaksov from Bulgaria, and Jessia Senator Cabo G. Garechaba from Botswana, and Jessia Senator Jennifer J. Ray from Maryland, USA, who will share their thoughts and experiences on intergenerational leadership in the workplace. So we are sure that we can learn and be knowledgeable on how the intergenerational leadership can benefit and make an impact to organization or corporation to grow more stronger. So now let me start with the first panelist, Jessia Senator Petar from Bulgaria. Senator Petar Diaksov is a managing partner and marketing director in one of the biggest digital agencies in southern Bulgarian, Seomax, and founder of the digital agency And in 2017 as the JCI Bulgaria National President, 2019 as a JCI Senator. Senator Petar organized many seminars about entrepreneurship, digital marketing, and business development. So how are you, Senator Petar?
Very
Nice
well,
to have
thank
you
you.
here.
Glad to be here.
Yes, I have a question for you. You work with many age group in your workplace. You work mostly with young people born in 1994. This age group can be called the millennials or Generation Y. And what is your observation? Can we count on this special age group?
Well, generally, digital marketing is very trending field that many young people are attracted to. So basically, we work with many people that they're younger than 30 years old at the moment, and it's something that I have this experience working with such type of young people, and I can see that the things are a bit changing more or less. I can see that many of the people now they want to go in a company, but to stay only for a year or two to get their experience, to get something from it, learn some useful skills, and then move on, go to another company. So it's a bit more or less they're not that reliable as they used to. When, for example, when I was starting my company. Also, I can see that most of those younger people in generation Y or even Z, they are very impatient. They want results right away. They don't want to wait. They just want to get the skill and just start doing those things. They don't want to spend time in developing themselves, even though everyone is telling to everyone that they want to develop themselves, but they have no idea how, and they are not they don't want to contribute and to wait for it so they can learn those specific skill sets. Also nowadays, especially with social media like TikTok, Snapchat, Instagram, they don't like to read that much anymore. They want to see short videos, audios, podcasts. And even though, for example, I know that most of the organizations, they have those nice toolkits that they're with text, they're just not attractive to the younger generation anymore. So we have to adapt to them because we are losing their interest. They don't want to be controlled that much. Even though they work remotely, they don't like to be controlled. They just want to have a specific goals and tasks, and then they can find their own way of finding the solution right. And it's hard. Also, most of those soft skills, people skills that we need in our organizations, especially with remote work, they're suffering, and for them it's really hard to work in office environment, and they adapt really slowly. Most of those people, they prefer to work remotely because it gives them a sense of freedom. So it's something that I'm seeing, and for me it's really challenging, especially when you want to plan a career with someone that to be long-term, like 3-5 years, because for them it's really hard to imagine themselves working in the same company for such a long time. So yeah, I really think it's going to be really challenging, especially over the next years.
Thank you. And hopefully with your observation, we can get more knowledge how to deal with this special age group, on how we deal with the millennial generation entering the workplace to succeed the company or organization goal. And now we go to the second panelist, JCI Senator Kabo from Botswana. Hello, Senator Kabo. I think you have to unmute yourself. Senator Kabo. I think, can you hear me? Kabo? Please unmute yourself. As you unmute. Hello. Senator Kabo is, can anyone maybe
Maybe there is some
Thanksgiving.
problems. Maybe you can pass to the next.
Okay.
The
Okay,
next,
yeah, I'm there. I'm there. I
Great.
managed.
Senator Cabo.
Yes.
Yeah, Cabo G. Gareshaba is a
Cabo.
broadcaster working for Botswana National Broadcaster Radio Botswana. He is the JCI Vice President in 2016, continues to be an active member of JCI Botswana, and is constantly engaged as trainer and speaker. Glad that we finally can meet in this event, Mr. Cabo. And the question is, you must have worked on surrounded by a multi-age group in the organization or workplace. The question is, how does a leader leverage on the differences in the workplace or in a team?
Okay, thank you very much, and my apologies. I was just knocking off this morning, and I took a small nap, but I'm back. Thank you very much. How do you leverage on the difference or the age gap in the group? What basically happens is, what is the situation is that we have different age generations in organizations, and usually we tend to have different qualities. The previous speaker was talking about them, maybe the younger generation being patient, wanting to move from one job to another. Basically, what we should look at that kind of scenario is as a potential for development, or as something that is a threat or something that is a disadvantage. If you have an age group that is inquisitive, if you have an age group that challenges the status quo, then we must treat them as an advantage. They are not a threat and they are not a disadvantage. We must look at them as a group that we can use. That is, if an organization wants transformation, how do we tap onto the inquisitive minds of this young generation? If we are an organization that wants to use technology, this generation is a generation of digital natives, people who are more committed to using technology. They have seen nothing but technology since they were born. So we must be able to tap into what they know, as opposed to seeing it as something that is not normal. So again, if you have another generation that is older, that believes in authority, that tends to respect authority, or that values coming to work, that values doing things well on time, that is yet another, or those other qualities that we are supposed to be taking and using them to motivate younger people, that if you are employed or you are involved in an organization, the most important value is to know the significance of timekeeping, coming to work, or even authority, as in avoiding issues of insubordination. So my argument is that we must combine the qualities from the different generations as something that we can synthesize to lead a better organization, as opposed to seeing the varying qualities as maybe conflicting or antagonistic to each other. We must complement them and use them to further the mandate and the vision of the organization.
Yeah, so then we hope that in knowing the differences, the leader can get benefit and make strategy to solve these differences. And we have to come up with their strength and weakness and find their interest in order to have their full potential. I think we have to do a lot of strategy on that. Okay, so now we go to the third panelist, Senator Jennifer J. Ray from Nottingham, Maryland, USA. It is great that you are with us today, Senator Jennifer. And Senator Jennifer was the JCI USA president in 2015, continues to train chapter and state organization, participate in the GCI events and training. And Senator Jennifer, you have worked at Johnson, Mirmiran, and Thompson, GMT, and worked with the Meals on Wheels of Central Maryland, and to ensure the access to nutritious meals for some of the most at-risk citizens in the region. Very sure that you are surrounded by multi-age generation in your company and organization. So the question is, what is the great challenges in leading multiple generation at once?
Thank you. One of the things just really making sure that we are aware of, and I know we often talk about the millennial generation. Millennials are the youngest millennials are now in their mid to late 20s. So as we talk about what generation is entering the workforce and the JCI organization, it is now Generation Z that we really need to look towards to building our organizations around. But currently we do have 5 generations in our workforce and in our organizations, and an organization like the Senate organization where we don't have a retirement age. We just continue to bring in more and more generations. So one is just, it's recognizing each of those generations that we are working with. Again, whether in the workforce or in our organizations, there are still traditionalists that are part of our workforce. These are the individuals who were known as the silent generation. There are baby boomers who are the ones typically nearing retirement age, if not already retired. There is Generation X, which I know myself, I am a Generation Xer. We are actually one of the smallest generations, baby boomers, of course, being a very large generation, the millennial Generation Y being even larger than baby boomers, and Generation X being solidly in the middle, and much lower, much smaller population overall. And these are the individuals who are in leadership positions now, really in the journeyman and beyond area of their careers. And then, as I mentioned, Generation Y, millennial generation, and Generation Z. The challenge in working with each of these, and it's already been stated, of how everyone communicates. What are their cultural reference, and cultural meaning their generational reference, not necessarily where located and what culture within the world, but the references that they know of. And, just something very simple as the dialect and the word choices and what they refer to as the most important elements within their lifetime. Whether that was a world war, whether that was, a major climate change event, or whatever that major reference point each person has, it's going to be different. So a challenge is going to be how to make sure everybody can speak the same language per se, the same generational language. But recognizing even within each generation, there are similarities between all of us. And it was just said before, and has been said several times in different manners throughout this entire online event, of truly what, essentially what unites us is greater than what divides us. And when you look at the characteristics of each of those generations, each generation is seeking flexibility in some aspect, flexibility in their workplace, and then their work-life balance. As traditionalists, it's the flexibility as they're probably already retired or semi-retired, and how does that work? As baby boomers, they're nearing retirement age, and what does that look like in having some more work-home balance? As Generation X, these are individuals that most likely still have families, their children are in sports, they're coming up and managing, so still having that flexibility. Millennial and Generation Y, they're starting families. And Generation Z, as we heard Peter say in the very beginning, it's just that flexibility consistently. So the challenge comes down to how we continue to offer that flexibility, but we talk about it differently for each generation, because words matter, and how each person relates to the same topic is going to be different based on their contextual experiences and their age experiences. So ensuring, a success side is offering that flexibility all around, but the challenge side is making sure that we're coming to the table with that same basic understanding of what do we mean when we say autonomous work being allowed? What do we mean when we say work from home? What do we mean when we say incorporating different technologies? And ensuring that we have that base platform understanding, so that regardless of age, it is understood by the entire team, so that together they can perform better.
Okay. So then the keyword is the communication flexibility, and we have to study in all brackets of the multi-age generation. And how can we lead actually to ensure inclusion of all the generation, Senator Jennifer?
So making sure that we have inclusion of all generations, again, it comes back to, and it frequently, as in many organizations, it does come back to communication. But it also comes back to making sure that there is a seat at the table for everybody, that there's not limited number. There are not limited number of seats, that if anything, we just need to make that table longer. Now, that's a very nice broad reference I made of a great story that we use all the time as we talk about inclusion and diversity and equity. But in real practice, what that looks like is having, different committees in the workforce and ensuring that there is somebody from each generation represented, so that the ideas that we are putting together or the policies we are putting together for within our workforce, within our organizations, that there's somebody there to look at it from each perspective, because what it might mean for one person might be very different for another person. So as we look at work from home, and I'll use the work from home as an example, and the flexibility for perhaps a young family, a new family starting out, how does that then turn around and apply for each of the different generations? So it always will come back to communication, but it needs to come to effective communication, ensuring that there are representatives from each of these generations involved, that questions are being asked. And a technique I often use when I work in facilitating, and certainly facilitating in with challenging groups, or making sure we can come to a consensus, is having one-on-one conversations first. So as you're working and you're identifying individuals from different generations, have a one-on-one conversation with that person of, what does this look like? What does this mean? What are your thoughts on this policy? Have that with representatives from each of the generations that are within your organization, within your firm, and then bring everyone together and essentially do a SWOT, a strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, threats analysis for each of these policies and how it represents, and have those individual conversations as a starting point material. So then as it comes together, there is more consensus that can be built, and the concerns of how people are acting or interacting, or the defensiveness that can occur between generations, has already been dispelled because of these individual conversations. It's a challenging role as a facilitator, but it is the role that as a leader, we must be willing to take on and have those challenging conversations so that we can ensure inclusive workforces for everybody.
Okay, so that in very important in a corporation, the CEO or the human resource department, just to have an effective communication to the employee, and then we have to make a one-on-one conversation and take a moment and study and spend time with them, to have all the speaking the same language.
Yes, and Ira, I would just add in one item, as you mentioned, for human resources. It's really it's the onus of any leader in the organization, and quite frankly, anybody in the organization, but it really needs to come from all levels of any organization that is following the same process, not just from one team or another, but truly from our leadership of organizations to do this process.
Yeah, thank you, Senator Jennifer. And back to you, Senator Cabo. Senator Cabo, I have a question for you. What misconception do we usually have about other generation? Unmute yourself, please. Unmute yourself.
Yes, thank you very much. Thank you very much for the other opportunity. I think misconceptions form a very important part of organizations or any group of people when they meet. One thing that when I was reading around the topic, I really come across as really coming out clearly, is that we must appreciate that every generation, to a certain extent, believes they are better or even more responsible than the younger generation. But there is always a belief by a generation that comes before the other one that they are more responsible than the other one. And growing up in an African society, I thought it was an African to see the younger generation or the younger generation to be told that they are lazy or good for nothing people who don't want anything but just want to be given things on a silver platter. So generally, these are the misconceptions we have about other people. But I came across a very interesting an interesting quotation by Socrates. It was written around 400 BC. It says, "The children now love luxury. They have bad manners, contempt for authority. They show disrespect for elders and love gossip in place of activity." This is what Socrates was writing in 400 BC. So what is important is for us to be able to appreciate that the misconceptions that we have are not necessarily a new phenomenon. People have always had misconception about the younger generation. So what is the most important thing is for us to be able to accept that we are bound to always think that a generation that is different from us have qualities that are not attractive to ours. So the most important thing, like I said before, is that organization must invest in ensuring that they bridge this gap between generations. And they must bridge this gap knowing that everything that we have is misconception. Because every generation looks at the future and the current based on their realities. They are not able to define the future of organizations or the future of their existence based on another generation's perception. So this is why it is very important that when we deal with generation, we know or we accept that in most cases, how we look at their behavior, how we look at the way they act in the workplace is squarely based on misconceptions to think that we are better than them or we are providing better value than them. While in actual fact, they are also providing a very important value, but they are providing it from the realities or their own realities or how they perceive reality and the future, how they want to shape the future based on their perceptions. So it is important that we know that misconceptions form a very important part and they inform how we deal with others. Sometimes people, I know here people in our countryside, the people will believe that, women speak a lot. That's a misconception that people will have about another gender. So likewise, if we believe that a certain generation is either rude, lazy, too much forward, difficult, or we just think the other one is hardworking, they have these positive qualities, we must always be in a position to know that our role is to get all this up, be able to push and shape and the interest of our organization without using them as a stumbling block to achieving the mission and vision of an organization.
Yeah, Senator Cabo, do you think that an organization should invest on studying, coaching, or training to ensure their benefit for the intergenerational ecosystem? Can you hear? Senator Cabo? Hello? Yes, can you hear my questions?
Yeah, I had the question. I had the question clearly. I was saying that in most cases where I'm involved with training or speaking to organizations, especially on the issues of where they believe that young people are not as fruitful as they will expect, I always recommend that there must be trainings and coaching and strategies in place that are meant to ensure that we don't see other generations, or we don't see each other as different groups as threat to each other. Therefore, it is very important that any organization that wants to harmonize or direct all the energies towards attaining their vision and mission of the organization, it is very important that we invest on training, we invest on mentoring, we invest on training strategies or coming up with strategies that really respect other team members. And those strategies can be done by doing the following concept, by clear identification of leaders from various generations, and a proactive and meaningful engagement between leaders across generations, and also cross-generational partnerships on thought leadership in the organization. We also have to encourage mutual respect between leaders or between members of different organizations. Because as an organization, like I said before, we must never take the qualities we see in different generations as negative. Therefore, it is important that the HR of the organization, or the human resource, or those responsible for the human capital of the organization, ensure that they don't have other generations feeling that they are kind of ignored or they don't have a place in an organization. So that takes a very deliberate and concerted effort to ensure that you don't have members of your workforce that feel they are excluded because maybe they're inquisitive, or maybe because they are asking too many questions in meeting. There are cases where I've seen in an organization where you hold a meeting and there will only be few people who are speaking in that meeting. And as soon as the meeting disperses, you begin to have different groups having discussion or starting new meetings. And that will show you that there is a lack of psychological freedom for members of the staff based on how they feel the meeting should be conducted, or based on how they think things should be run in an organization. Or maybe because the organization is dominated by a certain group of people or a certain age of group who have certain level of understanding. So you end up having a certain group that feels dejected, that feels that they feel out of place, and end up discussing very important issues that they would have discussed in a formal setting, during the separate meetings, or forming kind of gossip kind of setups instead of contributing. So it is important that organization invest on training.
Yeah, I agree with you, Senator Cabo, that I think we should invest. This is important aspect that we should do coaching and training to ensure that they benefit for every multi-age ecosystem. I think we should pay attention to that. And back to you, Senator Petar. We are all suffered from COVID pandemic. Based on your observation, and how did COVID change the perception of the younger people in an organization?
Well, basically, let's start from there. That we were talking a lot the past years about the digitalization, and when COVID started, the organization had to adapt. So, especially the younger generation, they don't have that much work experience. For them, this digital field, it's their normal workplace. So basically, for them now, for especially the younger people that they're below 20 to 25 and they are now entering the companies, for them working outside the office from their homes is something very normal, and for them it's really hard to work from the office anymore. And especially now we're facing so many resistance, especially in the IT sector, where employees, they don't want to go back to their offices anymore. So probably we don't need them anymore, but we have to create good environment for the younger generation to feel that they're a part of a company, because besides that, they see their colleagues only from their screens. And we have to find ways to make it fun, make it interesting for them, and to make them feel that they're a part of a company, no matter how big it is. Also, another thing is that COVID provided opportunities for the younger generation to work for companies all over the world, and it doesn't matter from where, and they're very open to it because they work from their home, and it doesn't matter for what type of company, from which country it is. And especially from my experience being in Eastern Europe, our wages and the level of wages is not that high as, let's say, US or Western Europe. And even though, for example, a colleague of mine, SEO expert, he received a proposal for a wage from US company, which was 5 times higher than the wage that he was receiving in our company. And it's not that he had a bad wage. He had a really good wage in Bulgaria, but still the level of salary is very different in other parts of the world. And of course, he had to accept it. So I completely agree with that. And being an organization, it's really hard to compete with that, because now you're not only competing with companies from your country, but companies from all over the world. And those younger people, they see it now, and they have more demands than the people that before. Now the employer has to sell and has to convince the employee to join them, or by offering him or her many different types of benefits, and the employee he likes it because he sees that he's going to get a really good deals out of it, especially if the employee is good, if he or she is good specialist. So in terms of employer, we have to make our jobs to be very attractive, and it's hard in terms of younger generation, because now they have a lot of opportunities in front of them. Also, the younger generations, they're more attracted to companies, organizations that they have really a good image, and companies that they have a good mission and values that they can relate to. It can be in terms of environmental values, or things that they can see it's not only just a job. They want to see it's something more. It's something that it's providing them a meaning to work for, because they have so many opportunities out there. And also, well, they just basically, they don't have wires anymore, and they're global. They have global thinking, and they're digital now. So we cannot stop them.
Thank you. Many people now, they don't work anymore in the office. You know, like young generation, like my sons' friends, they're all, you know, work in United States, in Europe, and everywhere. So we don't need any big corporation. So we can maybe just in a cafeteria or in a restaurant, we can just work all over the world. I think now COVID has make a change for not only young people, for I think all of us. Thank you. And back to you, Senator Jennifer. As Peter work mostly with younger generation, maybe you have experience work with multi-age generation. How do we better prepare ourselves as leaders to work with different generation within our generation?
Really, the best way of preparing ourselves is we need to do the research. We need to understand what is important and valued for each of these different generations. And that is something as simple as just, as I mentioned earlier, you know, what were the significant aspects that happened within this generation? There is a popular paper that is provided each year here in USA that is sent out to university professors at one of the universities that talks about those who are coming in as the first year. generally 18, 19-year-olds coming into university, what happened in their lives. And it's that kind of a research, and it's that kind of understanding of recognizing those who are going to be heading to university this coming fall. They will never have known a world, without a smartphone. Not simply having access to a cell phone, but having access to a smartphone. They'll never know a world where we had a camera and went home for a phone, that this single device has been their entire lives. And it's recognizing that and doing that kind of a research to prepare ourselves to understand what is the most important aspects and features for each generation. To recognize, as we talk about traditionalists and baby boomers, that loyalty and long-term to a company is the most critical component. And as you worked with a company, it was that you invested in that and you worked those hours. And as we heard Peter talk about with some of these younger generations, that it is finding that skill. It's the loyalty to finding the skill and then moving on to another area. So how do we bring all of those people together? And that's really, again, doing the research to recognize what is the most important thing, what is the value. There are many, many papers out there, and it takes time. It's something I actually do and work with our National Senate organization and our National JC organization here in the USA, and doing that research to help people speak to each other and recognize, again, I've said this during an earlier panel, I'll say it again now, that communication aspect is the most critical aspect for any organization to succeed. So how do we talk together, and how do we make sure that we can work together? There's a great example that came in from the, let me just look here for the Open Sustainability Technology Lab at Michigan Technological University. And it was bringing different generations together and those skill sets and being able to have that communication. And through that, having the very first low-cost open source metal 3D printer that was developed. And that's what happens. That's the success story that you have when you bring people together and allow that communication to happen. Because you're having the younger folks coming in who are learning the technology, not through they have to in the workforce. They're learning it through their education as they're growing up, because it exists now, whereas it was being built in the past. But they're bringing that technology. You're having the baby boomers that perhaps have the business savvy and the network already established professionally, and you're having the Generation X who have done the software skills. And bringing these types of groups together is exactly how that open source 3D printer was developed. And it was through that communication and through the education of knowing who brings what to the table. So as leaders, the best thing we can do to make sure that we bring all of these generations together is we have to do our research. We have to do our homework. We can't just show up and expect it to work well because we've done conflict resolution in the past, or we've sat through a million hours of conflict resolution training through an organization. But you have to put the time in to understand what's important to each generation, what are the triggers, what are the major skill sets that were there, and then work to embrace that together.
Thank you. So that means the most important thing is research and technology that keep all the employee loyal to the company. And to add your explanation, I think JCI is a good combination of multi-age, from the junior and senators, and we work together through events and projects connecting multi-age in the GCI organization. So I love this organization because it's offering us all the friendship and networking and business opportunity. And through that, maybe it's one example.
Ira, there is a question that I put on the chat for you from Ted Ang. That is actually directed to Jennifer. How do you think that artificial intelligence can help to bridge and shorten the gap between different generations?
Okay.
So,
please, Senator Jennifer, there's a question for you.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Intelligence. Yeah.
So with artificial intelligence, and it's interesting because we had this question or similar conversation on an earlier panel, and we talked about different ways that you can go online. And even from the research aspect of, go into ChatGPT or any of the other artificial intelligence programs, you can insert, your question, and a lot of that research can come out. And it will make, from a research perspective, AI absolutely provides, it's a very quick way of doing some great research, getting some great information out of it. And like anything else in life, when it comes to research or sources, it's understanding your sources, it's doing your fact checking, it's even going through on multiple sources to help with that. As far as other manners for AI to assist, again, it's the accumulation of information and processing and how we can sort that better as we gather this information to make it most usable for us in an efficient manner of really bringing all of these sources together and enabling us to have those better communication techniques and really the information at our fingertips.
So for Senator Ted, maybe the explanation from Senator Jennifer is answering your questions. Thank you. Back to you, Senator Cabo. We all have been talking about the intergenerational leadership, how to approach different multi-age generation, and whether there are misconceptions, like you mentioned earlier. The question is, it is safe for an organization to just ignore intergenerational issues? Or is it just a talk, or its impact is worth worrying about? Senator Cabo. Hello? Can you hear me? Yes. Can you hear the questions, or should I repeat again?
Repeat it. I didn't hear the question.
Yes. Okay, Senator Cabo, we all have been talking about the intergenerational leadership, how to approach a different multi-age generation, and whether there are misconceptions, like you mentioned earlier. The question is, it is safe for an organization to just ignore intergenerational issues, or is it just a talk, or its impact is worth worrying about?
Thank you very much. I think it is important, like I have already said before, that organizations make sure that they provide a platform of mutual respect, a platform of understanding that will give every employee, that will give every team player in the team psychological freedom to contribute to organizations' growth. So it is very important that we don't just talk about it. It is also important that any organization must be having a strategy in place. That is, if I get into organization A and I ask them, how do you deal with issues of generational gap in your organization? They must be able to put a material, something material before you to be able to say, this is how we leverage on the young people we have. As an organization that wants to have employees that are technologically savvy, this is how we use the younger generation who are more inclined towards the use of technology. If we want an organization that respect and values the line of command in an organization, that is authority, this is how we use the older generation to be able to show or encourage the younger generation that rebellion or rebelling against the leadership is not necessarily a virtue. This is how we use different organizations to coach and to be able to guide each other. So my argument here is that organization must be having in place strategies, clear strategies. It should not just be talk. It must be something that can be produced, that can be put there for posterity to guide the organization as to how to handle the differences. Because I believe that if you don't handle the differences, like I said before, you have an organization where when you are a team, you are meeting as a team, you are discussing, maybe you are trying to cascade the vision of the organization. You are going to have a forum where only a few people are contributing because they feel they are part of the organization or they feel they have an understanding, while other people will only want to contribute in discussions on the sidelines and all that. So it is important that organizations don't just make it a talk, because like one would say that, you know, people never care how much you talk or how much you do until they realize or learn how much you care about them. So it is important that we know we must give care to both generations and invest in trying to bridge the gap between them.
Microphone, Ida.
So I think it's good for the older generation. It's important for older generation to coach or to train, yeah, to have a mutual respect and uphold value to teach to the younger generations. I think so. We have to practice how we can deal with the multi-age generation about the teaching how to have a mutual respect. Okay, and question to Petar.
Ida, I think you didn't realize, but the 45 minutes have gone.
Oh, really? Okay, all right. So, okay, there's maybe last question for Petar and Jennifer. Just a last question. Can we just, you know?
Let's do it very telegraphic.
We end or we continue?
Yeah, but in telegraphic, we are over the time.
Okay, all right. So then, thank you for all the three panelists. Our session is for the end, and Senator Petar, Senator Cabo, and Senator Jennifer, we appreciate your time, effort, and participation as panelists of the intergenerational leadership topic. We are looking forward to work with you all and other Senator events to share your experience and do coaching training offline or online on interesting up-to-date topics to ASEAN Senator members, especially to extend friendship and fellowship among JCI Senator. And please come to ASEAN and we will give you the best hospitality, like our JCI creed that we uphold. Service to humanity is the best work of life. Thank you very much, and thank you for the panelists. Back to you.
Ida, by the way, I'm putting you now as a picture. I will ask Riyadh to take us a picture. And also, at some point, also, I will put myself and Riyadh, and if there is, so we do a finishing picture. So Riyadh, we have the picture of this panel. You are muted. Yeah.
Yes, we have.
Okay. So now we will join also the picture. So I see that David is still here, so I will add him also. So let's see, and I'm missing myself actually. I know I'm here. This is the thing of trying to do several things at the same. Ilman, I don't know if you can show up. And I missed you, Riyadh. Where are you, Riyadh? So, here you are. Oh, it keeps moving, and so okay. Okay, I don't know if Ilman is on. I don't see. Yeah, here, Ilman. We only see the top of your head. Can you put the camera a little bit better? So. Yes. Okay. So from all the speakers that are still on, others.
David, I think your face. Can you up front? Yeah.
Okay. So it is this moment that I will take the opportunity to from Europe to say goodbye. I will pass also the floor to Riyadh and to Ira in a moment. So this was the first of many to come, I hope, summits. This is a way of sharing knowledge across the world, and we have a lot of knowledge in our network of senators. So, and I will, by the way, I will take the offer of hospitality that Ira just said. Basically, Riyadh and me, we will take that because we are going to do a fantastic journey through that area. So, Riyadh, you, and then Ira, and we finish.
Yes, thank you, Felipe. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone, and see you all. Until next time.
Okay. Okay, so Ira went first. So Riyadh, sorry.
Okay. No, thank you. So thank you, the panelists. It was awesome to have all the panelists coming from our senators, and there were no external people of JCI within our panelists and moderators. So it was a program, it was a summit that was organized by senators for senators, which was where all our intellectual senators, brought all the intellectual capabilities under one roof, whether it is on Zoom, on YouTube, eventually Spotify. So as Felipe just said, it is a very first event where we have been able to connect the 4 senates of the 4 areas. And it is a very first event, and we just hope that one day it will go better and will turn into something else. And we have also understood that when we are together, we are able to bring up activities and all kinds of things that senators are willing to participate. At a point of time, both on Zoom and on YouTube, we were like 70 people connected at the same time. So senators connected for these kind of events. And now, what's going to go on? So the idea is that last year in the World Congress, online World Congress in Hong Kong, so we had a discussion with all the Senate during the Senate board, and this is what we decided to do, to come up with such a summit this year. And before our mandate is changing, so we came up with the SOS summit. Now we have to think for the next summit. How is it going to be? Are we going to plan a physical one? Because we have already worked on a summit between Europe and Africa and the Middle East, which called the Mediterranean Summit. What would be next? Where could we meet again that now we could make it physical? Where could we have a space just for senators' activities in a World Congress or an area conference? So these are matters that we can think of, and I'm also very, 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 very impressed by the level of discussion that we had amongst ourselves, senators to senators. It was impressive. But the only thing I regret is that when we have so much intellectual capabilities until today, because we are above 40 years of age, we are unable to transmit whatever we have gained in area conferences or world congresses, because we are not allowed to train. I'm still fighting that with the GCI headquarters now, and this will continue on. Hopefully one day we will come to terms to that, but at least we have been able to show that when we are senators, we are together, we are becoming a reference, just like this, the title gives us a reference. Now, when we are together, we are also becoming reference. Thank you for your attention.
So this is it. Thank you very much for your participation. It has been almost 3 hours, to be precise, 2 hours and 55 minutes. We took a little bit more than what was forecast. Thank you very much, and see you. I will send to all that register. I will send a YouTube link so you can see it back, the best moments, and do it replay, do it fast forward at double speed, so everybody will be talking like Mickey Mouse or something like that. So, bye from Portugal. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you very much.
Forward to seeing you.